Choosing an iPad just got more difficult now that Apple released the new iPad mini 6 and the budget iPad 9. So what I'm going to do in this video is lay out all of the differences to help you decide which one you should buy. I've got every single iPad in Apple's current iPad lineup right in front of me, including the new 10.2-inch iPad 9, the redesigned iPad mini 6, the iPad Air 4, which I'm actually using as the teleprompter right now, the 11-inch M1 iPad Pro, as well as the 12.9-inch model. So let's get right into this comparison. Comparing the designs, the iPad 9 is the only one that hasn't moved over to the modern flat-sided design language, which obviously looks much nicer and makes the iPads feel more future-proof, matching up to the latest iPhones. The iPad 9 is also the only one that doesn't get a nice-looking camera bump, so it's the only one without a 12 megapixel rear camera, sitting at just 8 megapixels, so it's the only one that cannot record at 4K. And then the iPad Pro gets the additional ultra-wide camera and a LiDAR scanner on the rear for use with augmented reality apps. Now both the iPad mini and the Air get Touch ID built into the power button compared to the iPad 9, which has Touch ID built into the front with the home button, which definitely doesn't look as nice with those square display corners. But the iPad Pro actually gets Face ID just like you get on an iPhone, which in my opinion is the best solution because it authenticates automatically, which is so much more convenient. And another thing you'll notice on the larger iPads is the smart connector either on the side or on the back, and this is used to connect accessories like the Magic Keyboard case, which I have right over here, which basically turns it into a laptop replacement because it has a built-in trackpad that works really well. And of course, the mini doesn't get this because it's obviously too small to support a decent sized keyboard, and that small size is also why the volume buttons have been relocated from the side, like on the iPad Pro, to the top, because that is where you have the new Apple Pencil magnetic charging connector to basically support the second gen Apple Pencil. And as you can see, it takes up literally the entire side, which is why they moved the volume buttons compared to the iPad Pro, where you still have a little bit room to change the volume. And with that said, the new budget iPad 9 is the only iPad that supports the older Apple Pencil, which recharges by plugging it into the Lightning port, which is also only on the iPad 9 since the rest of the iPad lineup has moved on to a USB Type-C port, and even better, an all-out Thunderbolt port on the iPad Pro models, which actually supports hubs that we've used on the M1 Mac Mini. But I guess at least one saving grace for the budget iPad 9 is that it's the only one that still features a headphone jack for those who really care about that. Now, as far as the speakers, every iPad except for the iPad 9, again, features speakers on both the top and the bottom, which gives you true stereo sound when in landscape mode, while the iPad Pro is actually the only one that has quad speakers. So 1, 2, 3, 4 for even better sound and a louder experience. Just hear it for yourself. So as you've just heard, the iPad 9 doesn't sound as good because the audio only comes out of one side compared to both sides on the rest of the iPads. And you probably also noticed that the Pros sound much better and louder, especially on the massive 12.9-inch. Now moving over to the front, the iPad 9 is the only one to feature the old square corner display design compared to nice rounded corners with even bezels all around on the rest of the iPad lineup, which obviously gives you a much more immersive experience. And that display on the 12.9-inch model is absolutely massive. And because of that, it's by far the least comfortable to use as a regular tablet. So I honestly think it's meant to be used with a keyboard case like Apple's Magic Keyboard, basically creating a laptop replacement. Now on the other hand, you've got the iPad mini, which is perfect for tablet use, both for kids and adults who just want to browse the web or play games on the couch or literally anywhere else. And I'd say that the other three offer a really good balance between portability and the option to use like a laptop if you get a keyboard case like the Logitech Combo or Folio Touch, which also packs a built-in trackpad. Now, as far as the display quality, all of the iPads except for the budget iPad 9 come with laminated displays, which means that the display and cover glass are glued together, forming a more solid display that improves black contrast levels and doesn't have a visible gap between the two layers like you get on the iPad 9. On top of that, the iPad 9 is the only one that doesn't feature an anti-reflective coating, which you might even be able to tell just from looking at these two displays. And it also doesn't support DCI-P3 colors for a more color accurate display, as you see in this example where it can't show this specific shade of red. As far as the maximum brightness, the iPad Pros get brighter, specifically 600 nits when in regular use compared to 500 on the other iPads. However, the 12.9-inch iPad Pro is the only one that features Apple's latest XDR display, which uses mini LED technology to get much brighter when viewing HDR video and movie content, all the way up to 600 nits peak brightness, while also giving you the best and deepest contrast levels you can get. The only issue is that you can sometimes notice a blooming or halo glow effect around bright white sections of the display, especially when the lights are turned off. Now, on top of all of that, the iPad Pros come with the 120Hz ProMotion feature, which allows the displays to refresh at up to 120 Hz, giving you much more smooth animations and scrolling compared to the rest of the iPads that are stuck at 60 Hz, as you can see in these slow-mo clips. This feature alone is the reason why I personally will never buy an iPad without 120Hz refresh rate, especially since I just upgraded to the iPhone 13 Pro Max, which also supports ProMotion. Oh, and by the way, this feature on the iPad Pros also reduces Apple Pencil latency, making it feel super smooth and natural. Now, before I get into the performance, I want to ask you guys to go ahead and subscribe because we've got a lot more content coming to you guys, including iPads, M1X, MacBook Pros, and everything else. So we would really appreciate it because we're trying to hit 1 million before the end of this year. So thank you guys. Now, I do want to mention that the iPad Air is the only one that doesn't come with the new 12 megapixel ultra wide selfie camera, which gives you a whole new perspective, and it also gives you center stage support, which automatically keeps your face in the center of the frame, which is really nice. And before the performance, there's also differences in the microphone quality, so here's a quick clip so you can hear it for yourself. This is the microphone quality on the new 10.2-inch iPad 9. This is the microphone quality on the new iPad mini 6. This is the microphone quality on the 10.9-inch iPad Air 4. This is the microphone quality on the 11-inch M1 iPad Pro. And finally, this is the microphone quality on the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. Alright, getting into performance, the budget iPad 9 gets the A13 chip, the iPad Air gets the A14, the new mini actually gets the latest A15, which is a little bit ironic, and the iPad Pros get the M1 chip directly from the M1 Max. As far as the RAM, the iPad 9 gets 3 gigabytes, the Mini and the Air get 4, and the Pros actually get a really solid 8 gigabytes of RAM with the option of getting up to 16 gigs if you buy the 1 terabyte of storage model, which is insanely expensive. Now, in terms of the raw CPU performance in Geekbench 5, they're all incredibly powerful in terms of single core performance, with the biggest outlier being the iPad 9. Now, this is going to give all of them really good web browsing performance, with the new iPad mini 6 being surprisingly almost as fast as the M1 iPad Pro. However, in the multi-core performance test, you can see where the iPad Pro is getting a massive lead, and surprisingly, the Mini with the new A15 chip is barely faster than the A14 in the iPad Air. Now, in terms of raw graphics performance, the iPad 9 starts to fall way behind, And once again, the Mini is just barely faster than the Air, with the iPad Pro gaining an absolutely massive lead. So that brings us to a real-world gaming stress test where the M1 iPad Pro pulls even further ahead, but the other iPads aren't necessarily that bad. Because even the budget iPad 9 ran a lot of the most common games at a perfect and consistent 60 FPS at maxed out graphics settings with no issues, including games like Call of Duty Mobile, Pokemon Unite, and League of Legends Wild Rift. It even handled Genshin Impact, the most demanding iOS game ever, surprisingly well at maxed out graphics settings, but it did suffer from FPS drops that you don't experience on the other more powerful iPads. It was also not nearly as comfortable as the other iPads to hold in your hand in game because of the large top and bottom bezel, which pushes the on-screen controls further away from the edges of the iPad, making it less comfortable. But by far, the most comfortable iPad for gaming is the new iPad Mini because of the compact size, which makes controlling it very easy, and the much lighter weight, making it the most perfect gaming tablet I have ever used. But because of the M1 chip and ProMotion display, the iPad Pro can actually handle a solid 120 FPS in Call of Duty Mobile, as you can see in this video from Golden Reviewer, and that is obviously only possible on the iPad Pro models. Now moving on to some of the spec differences, the budget iPad gets Bluetooth 4.2 compared to 5.0 on the rest of the iPads, and it's the only one that doesn't support Wi-Fi 6. But only the Pros and the new Mini have the option of 5G connectivity. Now this year, the budget iPad finally comes with 64 gigabytes of base storage, making it a much better value since it matches the Mini and the Air. But the Pros actually get 128 gigs at the base price, which is definitely a nice upgrade. So with all of that said and compared, let's get right into my purchasing recommendations, starting off with who should be buying the basic iPad 9. If you don't really care about having the latest design and the best display quality, then I'd honestly recommend this budget iPad because you can obviously get it for much less than the other models, and the performance is more than good enough for most people. It also has the benefit of being turned into a decent laptop replacement thanks to the smart connector, and of course it has the headphone jack for those who really want to use it, but unfortunately the speakers aren't that great. Now if you do care about getting a more future-proof design that looks more modern with the rounded quarter display and one that comes with modern specs and features like the USB Type-C port, the second-gen Apple Pencil support, and the true stereo speakers in landscape mode, then I would recommend getting a more expensive iPad like the iPad Mini 6. This one is really meant for people who already have a laptop or computer for their productivity work, and they just want a tablet to use on the couch for tablet things like surfing the web and using social media. And just like I mentioned before, I think this is by far the best tablet for gaming because of the compact and lightweight size, combined with the impressive A15 chip that handles any game out there with ease. It's also by far the best option for kids, again because of the smaller size. Now if you want something exactly like the Mini, but with a larger, more immersive display, then the iPad Air is the next step up, and the added benefit of the smart connector means you can also use it as a laptop replacement. Just keep in mind that for the extra $100, you don't get any extra base storage, and it actually comes with the older and slightly slower A14 chip. And it doesn't come with features like the 12 megapixel ultra-wide selfie camera and the rear-facing flash. And I would honestly steer people away from buying the iPad Air right now because we're expecting it to get updated in the springtime next year to add in those missing features and get updated with the A15 chip. And another huge reason is that it's only $200 less expensive than the iPad Pro, and it lacks a ton of features, including the 120Hz display, the quad speakers, the 600 nits of brightness, the extra cameras on the back, the better microphones, optional 5G connectivity, the Thunderbolt port, the extra 4 gigabytes of RAM, and of course, the massive difference in performance, which altogether make it much more future-proof. So if you're already spending $600 on the Air, the iPad Pro is a no-brainer for $200 more, since it also comes with double the storage space, 128 gigs instead of 64, and that 120Hz ProMotion feature is an absolute game changer. And then of course, the 12.9-inch iPad Pro for $1,100 is meant for the real professionals out there who want to use it for work or professional editing, or simply anyone who really cares about having the best display out there thanks to the new mini LED tech, or maybe you just like the massive display size. So with all that said, let me just make it simple for you. If you want a reliable iPad but don't want to spend a ton of cash, just go for the budget iPad 9. If you want something small and compact, but very powerful and reliable for everyday casual use, then buy the new iPad mini. But out of all of these iPads, I would honestly recommend the 11-inch iPad Pro because it gives you by far the best value for everything you're getting, making it the most future-proof for the amount of cash, especially since it's on sale on Amazon right now for $750. So hopefully this video helped you make a decision, and if it did, I'm gonna put links to the best deals on all of these iPads down in the description below, and be sure to click that circle above to subscribe for more helpful videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.